Who am I? That is the definition of our current sermon series as we study the book of Ephesians. Who am I is the question. Who am I is the question that a lot of people ask of themselves and ask of our society, or ask of ourselves as humans in general. That is the question that we ask oftentimes, and that is what we call seeking our identity, seeking out our personal identity. So this video is on the religion of personal identity as an alternative to a religion of Christianity, as an alternative to Christ. So here's again one. I want to start with the definition of what personal identity is. And personal identity deals with a philosophical question that arises about ourselves by virtue of our being, in contrast to the material conscious being. It's not about who am I physically or consciously. It's more about who am I philosophically, spiritually. What am I? When did I begin? And what will happen to me when I die? Those are the types of questions that define or look at who I am as a person. There are a lot of things that define us as people, and I think we can see how today we do worship our personal identity a lot. Every single day we worship ourselves instead of worshiping our Creator. So I want to just propose a few major examples of how we see people practicing the religion of personal identity. So there's worship to the personal identity, or worship to ourselves, when we actually practice finding out our own personality. Now, I know that that is a aspect that we use in the world of education, that we use just in general to find out who we are, which is not a bad thing. But I think things like taking the test, the Enneagram test, or the Myers-Briggs test, or the 16 personalities quiz, right? I think those are the examples of us trying to find out who we are. I think those are the results of the practice of religion of personal identity. Another good example of how we practice the religion of personal identity is through observing our own feelings, or getting in touch with our own feelings, getting in communication with the inner self, right? So that that push, or that strong call to meditate and to look inside of ourselves and to find out who we are and to brainstorm all these things is an example of us practicing a religion of personal identity. Now, I understand that we meditate on the Word of God, that we spend time in prayer, but there are also times when we meditate simply for the sake of getting in touch with our own feelings, and that is a practice of religion of personal identity. Another big example of people of our society today practicing the religion of personal identity is through the call to finding a role model. Who is your role model? That is one of the major questions. One of the first questions that we're often asked as students, as children, as adults. Even we're asked these questions. Sometimes we are asked this question when we're meeting each other, when we're hoping to find things out about each other. And there is a huge movement to be associated with someone, to have a role model, to have a hero, to have someone to look up to. So finding someone or something to look up to. It oftentimes people will look up to fictional characters, or other times real individuals who they will look up to and dress as, we dress up our children as superheroes, and we do hairstyles and wear clothing after uh, as a result of looking up to someone. I think those are all the practice of personal, the religion of personal identity. Another very good, very interesting thing that has been happening in the past few years with the expansion of technology and DNA testing, there is this move, this major move towards finding out your ancestral roots, finding out of who you truly are, right? And so there's this movement toward to take genealogy tests and finding out, okay, I am 50% this, 20% that, 10% this, right? I think those are good examples of when we are really trying to look into ourselves, and it's all about me. It's all about who I am, respect my culture, respect my ethnicity, respect my race, respect my language, respect for me, who I am, and don't criticize who I am, right? And I think that's another factor that makes that shows us when we are practicing the religion of personal identity, or when we're worshiping ourselves, is that idea that there's no one has a right to criticize anyone else based on the decisions that they're making. So any level of disagreement or criticism against someone's decision is frowned on, right? So frowned upon. So if somebody says something, different than I believe and or I understand, or does something differently from what I understand, it's almost like if we say something in disagreement with that, it would be seen as being judging and criticizing, and that type of language is not accepted today, because you're viewing, you're not respecting me as an individual. Don't tread on me. I think that's another example of a recent movement of personal identity, religion of personal identity. Like, give me space, leave me alone. Most importantly, we're encouraged to not be too harsh with ourselves, and at times when someone may be disappointed with us, we are told that it's not your fault that someone is disappointed with you. It is the person who is disappointed. It is their fault that they're disappointed with you. They are the ones doing the misunderstanding, not you. And I think the last main visual that kind of shows the religion of personal identity is the idea of YOLO, YOLO, right? You only live once. And I think that's something very prevalent to the culture right now. You'll never know who you truly are unless you try all these new things. And here's a quote I found on the internet by one of the sources. It says, "By doing things that you wouldn't normally do, you have the opportunity to discover pastimes, dreams, and even ways of living that really speaks to you." So there's this whole idea of try new things, see how they work, see what you're going to learn about yourself by trying these new things. Don't be afraid to try new things. It's all about who you are and who you can be and who you will find and what you will find out about yourself. So there's that, my little spiel on the religion of a personal identity.